Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, who teach the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of North, Central, and South America, as well as a speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Today I'm looking at the topic of regeneration of the spirit. It's quite an important topic to understand. Prior to you coming to the truth, a lot of Israelites were in amongst the Christian church or the Roman Catholic Church, and they believed that they had some sort of understanding of the Bible. But when you come to the truth, when you come to the Hebrew Israelites, the scriptures tell you to be born again, because you have to throw all of that understanding out the window and start again. And the reason is because you haven't been taught the Bible properly in the correct manner, and so therefore it's been understood wrong. So when you come to the truth, and we explain the scriptures to you, there's certain things that you have to understand, that you have to take on board. And these initial things, if you don't take them on board, then you're never going to be able to understand these scriptures. An example of that is understanding the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, the Assyrian or the Greek. Understanding these languages, you have to understand that the scriptures were written in these languages initially. So today, when you're reading in English, they pretty much paint two or three words. In the Hebrew, in the Greek, they'll paint two or three words with the same English word. And for example, the word mark. So you read the word mark in the Bible, and you might think, you'll have the same understanding from reading it in English twice over in two different precepts. But when you actually go to the original text, you'll find out that these are two different types of marks, which then give you two different types of understanding. And then you actually understand those individual scriptures better than, or understand them how you should in the first place. So that's one example. Another thing you have to take on board is regeneration of the spirit, what they call reincarnation. It's something that you have to take on board. If you don't take that on board, then a lot of the scriptures, a lot of the meanings, a lot of the understandings, a lot of the situations that are taking place don't make any sense to you. And so, there are people out there that argue that, so-called reincarnation, the Bible refers to it as regeneration, and regeneration, reincarnation is pretty much the same thing. It's not a regeneration of the flesh, of the body. It's a regeneration of your spirit. Once your spirit dies, it goes to the spirit world. First thing is you come up face to face with the Most High, Yahweh, and then you'll be sent back down at a later date into a new body, which is through the bloodline of your father, and that will be your spirit regenerated back on earth. And so a lot of people, they say, well, this is an East Indian custom, for example, with Hinduism. And, this is actually an incorrect understanding. All these different religions around the world, especially these major ones, they have taken the initial understanding of the Bible and then distorted it to their own fashion, to create their own religion, to put fear upon their own people. Ultimately, the Bible is a tool used to create fear amongst men. So if you are, the speaker of the Bible, the one who understands the Bible, the one who's given the credence from the Most High to bring out the scriptures, ultimately the people that listen to the scriptures are supposed to fear the Most High. And so, people have, over the course of history, they've realized that, and they've taken it and distorted the understanding of it, kept a bit of the truth the same, and distorted it and then used it to manipulate their own people. And that's why today we have multiple religions over the world. And, with the return of Yahweh Shai, the day of judgment, we're going to find out that, these religions actually hold no weight when it comes to the Most High and the spirit world. You have to know the truth in order to manipulate it. So if you have people that are lying to you, they have to know the truth in the first place to avoid that lie. And if there are so many different religions in the world, somebody has to be wrong. When I was a child, I asked my granddad. I said to him, I remember asking him, how come there's all these different religions in the world, all these different gods? And he said to me, no, everybody believes in the same God, but they've got their own religion. So that was just confusing in itself, because I said, well, then one of these groups of people has to be wrong. And I was about 12 years old, and I was already getting on my granddad about it. I couldn't understand it. And he was saying, no, everybody believes in the same God, but they have their own type of worship, their own religion towards the Most High. And ultimately, just as I realized at that moment, only one can be right. And we're coming up to the day of judgment, and we're going to find out that the Hebrew Israelites are the true men of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and Yahweh being the true the name, the power of this whole universe, his son Yahweh Shai, and all these other religions, these types of idols, these types of worship, these false idols, they're all going to be obliterated and put to rest. But you have to know the truth in order to lie. So if the Christian church, don't teach you about regeneration, there must be a reason for it, because they try to teach the Bible, yet they fail to bring out certain bits of information. And ultimately, because they know bringing out those certain bits of information gives people a clearer understanding. The clearer understanding you give people of these scriptures, the less nonsense they partake with in the world. And that's not what they want. They want people occupied with the nonsense of the world. So they don't want you to really have the true understanding, especially you Israelites, you Hebrew Israelites. They don't want you to have the understanding of these scriptures. And it also shows you your own identity, who you are. They don't want that. If you're going to argue that the sky is not blue, you have to know that it's blue in the first place to argue away from that. It makes sense. But that's something you need to understand. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10. It says, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of the anointed, that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. So, as soon as you die, the first thing that happens is your spirit is shooting straight back up to the spirit world, to the Most High, and you'll appear before that judgment seat. And at that point you'll be given your judgment. You whatever type of wickedness or righteousness you've carried out on the earth during that lifetime, it's then brought to your attention by the Most High as you face this judgment seat, and then you'll be told what type of judgment you're going to receive in your next lifetime. And then with that, you're then into the spirit world. And so once you're in the spirit world, you're pretty much waiting on the next return down to earth, which will come through your father's bloodline. Your spirit will be projected back into a body through your father's bloodline every third or fourth generation. Just to finish verse 11 here, it says, knowing therefore the terror of the Most High, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto the Most High, and I trust also are made manifest in your conscience. So the reason why we come out and speak this word is because we understand what's happening in the spirit world. We understand that there is a power, and he does manipulate the earth. Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai has control over every aspect of your life. The fact that you're whether you're healthy or unhealthy, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're suffering or whether you're not suffering, this is all coming back down to the Most High. people like to investigate. You have things like the police and the FBI, they investigate the government and they analyze and they come up with answers and they present them and they tell you this is why, the ship capsized. This is why the building fell down. And, they can find these scientific reasons and retrace steps, so on and so forth. But when you have the knowledge that the Most High is bringing this is one of the secrets of the Most High. This is the Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai unveiling those secrets to you, showing you his works, showing you how he manipulates things. That's through the understanding of his scriptures. Once the kingdom of heaven is established, which is very soon, it will be made manifest. It will be very clear to everybody. And there will be no hiding at that point. But at the minute, obviously, we're living at a time where a lot of Israelites are spiritually asleep and they can't see it. But we come out here based on the terror of Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, knowing that the Most High controls all evil activity as well as righteous activity. So if we don't do this righteous work, if we're given this message and we don't carry out this righteous work, that same power could send evil upon us. So it's keeps us in good stead to speak this word. So Exodus 34 and verse 6. So we know that once we die, we pass over, we face the judgment seat of Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Sometimes people ask, can you, give me a prayer? My relatives died. Can you give me a prayer? To throw up a prayer for them, because he's died. And I say, well, I generally tend to ask, well, what is it you want to pray for? And at that point, they say, well, I want to make sure that the relative's okay, is fine. And I then explain to the person, well, this spirit, this person that was in a body, the spirit, the person's died, the flesh has perished, and now the spirit has gone into the spirit world. Whatever he's done in his lifetime, he's already received the judgment for it. He might have done a lot of wickedness or a lot of good things, but he's already come face to face with the Most High. The Most High has told him, this is how I'm going to deal with you in your next lifetime. He's now in the spirit world. He's now in what you would call paradise. No need to wash, no need to earn money, and no chances of disease. You're in the spirit world. There is no issues. So then when you bring that understanding to people, they tend to understand, what it's all about. And then you say, well, look, it's you really that need praying for, because you've now got to face up to this MOTB, square in the face. So that's your real problem. That's your real issue that you're going to be facing. Obviously, it's hard, when people lose relatives, they feel a sense of loss. So obviously they try to replace that with something else. But understanding that this person has technically gone to sleep, the spirit has gone to the spirit world, and they will be back, can provide comfort. If you pass away, you're likely to come back through your father's bloodline every third or fourth generation. So if you lose your great granddad, and you might be upset about it, and 6 months later your wife has a baby, chances are that baby could be your great granddad, but yet you're mourning over the loss of this person, and that spirit is back on this earth right in front of you. So I believe the scriptures say you shouldn't really be mourning after 7 days. Understanding what's happening in the spirit world and how things are passed back on to the earth should give you understanding towards that. This is Exodus chapter 34, verse 7, or verse 6. Shall I start at verse 6? It says, and Yahweh passed before him, this is Moses, and proclaims, Yahweh, thy power, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth. So this is a description of Yahweh, long-suffering. Verse 7, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and upon the children's children, unto the third and fourth generation. So you'll see a serial killer someone who came onto this earth. I'll give you an example. The First World War, the Second World War was pretty much based around, that, I don't really want to say his name, Adolf. Everything was based around that man, and he was so supposedly responsible for killing millions of people. Now, by the end of his life, he took his own way out. So he didn't allow anybody on the earth to punish him or persecute him or make him answer for what he did. He went out, he committed these so-called crimes, and then when he decided that he'd had enough and he wants to end it, he pretty much put a gun to his head and killed himself. So you could say, well, this is pretty unfair. This person hasn't been judged for what they've done, and the Lord is long suffering because he's allowed, just watched him carry on with that. But this particular person will be judged. It says here, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third or fourth generation. So, your spirit will be back through your father's bloodline every third or fourth generation. The iniquity of your fathers, what you did in that previous lifetime, will be given upon you. The iniquity will be visited back upon you when you come back third or fourth generation. So you have people that will, children that are born, and they go through certain types of suffering, and this could either be to punish the parent, could be to punish the child. And there's a lot of people that go through certain problems, and before they're even of an age where they could be classed as being able to look after themselves. And we live in a world, I work in a hospital, and people always have sympathy to these victims in these particular scenarios. And obviously, being at work, I have to go along with the understanding that these people have. But, in the back of my mind, I know that Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai is judging fathers for their iniquities, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third or fourth generation. So you look around, you see somebody that have a child, the child makes it to 3 years old and something happens drastic to the child. And everybody will come around and be sympathetic towards that child. But ultimately, who has the final say on who's born and who dies? It's the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai. Many times you'll see Israelite children pass away, and these little gangsters, and then you'll see the mum come out on the TV. Oh, he was such a good boy. They show you a picture of him when he was 10 years old, even though now he's died. He's 16 years old, running around with a machine gun. And ultimately, this is all judgment. We live under curses, so you have to look at Deuteronomy chapter 28. If you're new to this, you can understand curses that are put upon us at this time. And that's why we suffer a lot of the things that we suffer. But some of the things we suffer are due to what we have done in our previous lives. Often people, when you're breaking down this type of information to you, they do ask. They tend to bring up their certain problems that they've had in their lives. They say, I've had this type of abuse or so on and so forth. But the thing is, ultimately, we can't give you an answer as to why you're receiving that judgment. It could be part of the curse. It could be part of something you've done in your previous life. Ultimately, this truth has been given to you to give you understanding, to give you comfort, and for you to know that the kingdom of heaven is around the corner. So things will change drastically very soon, and we can shake it off. So this is pretty much the process. Your spirit has been here on earth before. The elders of GMS are always talking about, the apostles and elders are always talking about Donald Trump being Caesar, is it Nero, and in a spiritual reincarnation. And there's many other examples out there. And many of these musical artists are probably famous musical artists from previous generations, and they're born with it in their spirit, and that's what's driven them to become at the top of that musical game. Things repeat themselves. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, it says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, vanity. So the words of the preacher, son of David, which represents Solomon. Okay, and what you have to understand is Solomon is also Yahweh Shai through the regeneration. Also Isaac, if my memory is serving me correctly. Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac on command of the Most High Yahweh. And obviously that, through the Spirit, ultimately Yahweh Shai was the Son of the Most High that was sacrificed for us to receive this chance, to receive this truth at this time. So this is the words of Solomon, who is ultimately the Spirit of Yahweh Shai, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. It says, vanity of vanities, saith the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labour which he hath taken under the sun? One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever. And so we understand that these generations, you're coming back through your father's bloodline every third or fourth generation. So really, within your family, there's only a select number of spirits which keep repeating. They're on rotation, on repeat. It's a bit like the substitution. You've had your 20 minutes, you're off. Next one. And then you had your 20 minutes, you're off. Next one. This is the sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down, and hasteth to his place where he arose. The wind goeth towards the south, and turneth about unto the north. It whirleth about continually, and the wind returneth again according to his circuits. Because you have, you look over the earth, the weather, you have global wind patterns, and these wind patterns are pretty much consistent. That's why every summer they'll bring in the warm wind, and come the winter coming up very soon, we'll be experiencing the beast from the east. It's that cold wind coming in from Russia. It says, all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. Because you've had all these rivers running into these oceans for thousands of years. So at what point do they overflow? They don't, because there is a cycle within which that water, through evaporation, through the clouds, through raining, return back to the top of the hills. And from the top of the hills, they then run down towards the sea, eventually making rivers. All things are full of labour. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that hath been is it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So that refers to the spirits. Our spirits, there's nothing new being done under the sun. We come back through, these third and fourth generations, and we're the same spirits. That's why things like fashion repeat, because once our spirits are put into bodies and we're out here living as a generation, our spirits are likely to go in the same particular direction. And so that's why fashion tends to repeat itself. So, this is the course of, the cycles of what's actually happening through, on a basic level, what's happening through life and death. There's a repeat process. And when it comes to the day of the Lord, anyone who's in the spirit world and in the ground, their flesh is in the ground, anybody happens to be in the spirit world at that particular point, your spirit will be put into your body, and you will be resurrected out of the ground to face that judgment of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. So you can't get away with it. If you're a member of the elect, then you will be delivered at that point, and beamed up into the chariot. And if you're considered wicked, then you will be judged. Now, this particular article is what kind of got me onto this subject. And this is not an example of regeneration, but this particular man here says he died for 7 minutes. Paints a picture of what he saw in the afterlife. This is actor Shiv Grewal. I mean, you might recognise him. I don't particularly recognise him. Went into cardiac arrest and died for 7 minutes. Since his recovery, he has started painting what he saw in the afterlife. This is a man who died and came back to life after a massive cardiac arrest, has painted vivid pictures of what he saw in the afterlife. Royal Shakespeare Company actor Shiv Grewal has held exhibitions of his artwork, which captures what he believes he saw when the lights went out. The actor had just finished on an RSC production of Shakespeare Much Ado About Nothing, in which he was playing Don Pedro when he went into cardiac arrest at home after dining out with his wife Alison, 50. Shiv of Peckham, South East London, recalled how he was technically dead for 7 minutes as paramedics fought to revive him using CPR, saying, "I knew somehow that I was dead. I was aware my brain was dying and crying out for help, but at the same time, I felt things completely separate from my body. It was like I was in a void but could feel emotions and sensations." So this is like the spirit world. What's happening at that moment. So his body's wanting to give up. And so you have human beings, around that body doing their best to revive that physical, fleshy human body. But his spirit is starting to depart. And, like he's saying here, he can feel emotions, connections, yet he feels separated from his body. When you have a vision, I've explained before that I came to this knowledge of this truth through a vision from Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, and that was shown 3,000 years and various details and information in between that point. I saw a great number of people from ancient Mizraim all the way up to America, and I was shown that people will be cut off in America. People have been cut off up until now for worshipping idols. These are Israelites, and people will be cut off ultimately in the destruction in America. So I was shown, a bit like you read in the Bible, you read these prophets and they have these particular visions, and they use many chapters to describe what they saw. And it's pretty much the same thing. And when you go into that scenario, it's almost like you've been put into a trance, and then your mind is almost in that spirit world where you're looking at things. And so, understanding what this gentleman's saying in this particular article, you can feel, it relates to that. You can feel yourself, but your mind is almost projected into another place where you then start to see things. And the things you see, you then react to. You say, wow, look, that was that. Oh, wow, look, these people died. Okay, this is that. That's America. Okay, so on and so forth. It says, despite knowing I was dead, I also knew that there was a chance of coming home. I also understood that I'd be reincarnated, but I didn't want that just yet. So he understood. Like I'm explaining, when you have a vision and Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai opens up your mind to the spirit world, certain things you understand instantly. You don't have the precepts, I don't have the proof, but you know certain things real. I was shown that Yahweh Shai is coming back. So I don't believe he's coming back. I actually know, because when your mind's opened up and you see the events, you definitely know it's happening. And so this thing happened to this guy to a certain degree. He knew there was a chance of coming home, and also understood that he'd be reincarnated. So as soon as you go into that spirit world, when you die, you've died, your relative has died, his spirit's gone up, his face has judgment seat of Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, and he's been told, you are wicked or you are righteous. This is how I'm going to deal with you in your next life, third or fourth generation through your father's bloodline. So you know that straight away. You then know of all your other lives. At that point, when you're in the spirit world, you'll remember your other lives. You'll know, oh, I've been on the earth 15 times, 20 times, and I had 20 different lives and 20 different jobs and 20 different wives. or whatever it is, you'll remember them all. And so all of a sudden, that's why you don't need to pray for those souls the same way you think you do, because they actually know more than you down here on the earth. You're sitting there crying, oh, my relative's gone, I'm never going to see him again. And they're up there now with the bigger picture. They understand everything instantly. They understand there is a Most High. They understand that they will be reincarnated, that they are coming back. They agree, okay, yeah, I did wickedness, so I have to be judged the next time I go back, or whatever the scenario is. And so, with that, you should really have a better understanding of what's happening when people die. It says here, despite knowing I was dead, I also knew that there was a chance of coming home. I also understood that I'd been reincarnated, but I didn't want that just yet. I wanted to return to life, to the material world, and to my wife. I demanded that I was coming back, and I got my wish. Yeah, I doubt he made it happen. He probably had that urge within his spirit, but ultimately it's not going to be his choice. It just happened to be whatever he desired is what was the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's why he came back. If Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai didn't want him on the planet no more, it would have been a done deal. Maybe he's showing, who knows for what reason he's putting this particular person through this scenario. Getting back to the previous lives, we go back to the book of Ecclesiastes. I've met, speaking this truth, people, like I say, they come to you and they try to confide in you with their particular information. And I know a few people, or two people, that have come up to me and have told me before that they remember previous lives. They've been in Christianity their whole lives. Nobody ever explained reincarnation. And they have these dreams and so on and so forth, and nobody ever explains them. Then they come across the Hebrew Israelites. The Hebrew Israelites explain to you that there's regeneration of the spirit. Now it makes sense to them. So what does that do? It brings them out of the woodwork, and they come to you. And I've had two people approach me and say, well, I do remember one particular previous life. I remember having a wife, a husband. It was two women. They said to me, one of them said to me, I remember she said, I remember having this job and this husband and this whole life set up. But it wasn't something that I've done in this lifetime, but I remember it like it was my old life. And, we're living in the last days. So Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is pouring out his spirit amongst all flesh. So, this understanding is being put upon people. Again, I don't know what it is that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has in store for that particular lady or those two women that came up to me with that information. But it is true. But the general rule, the general hard and fast rule, is that you're not going to remember your previous lives. Ecclesiastes 1:9, the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. So that's why when a child, gets taken out of life abruptly and violently, and you think, that poor baby, we don't remember what this, nor does that baby remember what they did in their previous lives. So you can't really, you don't have the skills or the knowledge or enough information to judge the scenario. But the fact that, Edomites are out here, especially investigating these scenarios and trying to give you their answer to everything, is back to their pride. But, this is a hard and fast rule. There is no remembrance of former things. But yet we are living in those times where the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is being poured out upon all flesh. Like I say, I have to, one example, one lady I've came across, and it was in passing, but there's the other lady who came across with the same information. I could contact her today. She still stands by the same statements. So back to the article, describing his extraordinary experience as being like a walking dream. Shiv, who met Alison, who works in communication training, in 2004, while starring in a West End production with her friend, is now keen to show others where we go to when we die through this highly personal artworks. He said, I had no body as such. I suppose it was a bit like swimming through water, because you're in the spirit world. You don't have a body. You don't have to go to the bathroom. You don't have to wash. You don't have to trim your hair. You don't have to get rid of these ailments. It says you feel weightless and disconnected from the physical world. At one point, I was traveling over the moon and I could see meteorites all over the place. Previously fit and healthy, Shiv went into cardiac arrest without any warning on February the 9th, 2013, after having lunch with Alison at a local French restaurant, when he said he felt pretty good. And this is the guy here. This is his artwork. I mean, I can't vouch for the artwork, but I'll give it to him. It's very colourful. But on the way home, he started feeling tired and was struggling to articulate properly, so went to lie down when they got in. While Alison rang NHS Direct for advice as he suddenly started to feel very cold. That was basically the last thing I remember, said Shiv. While Alison was on the phone, his eyes rolled back in his head and she screamed, blah, blah, blah. Arriving within minutes, paramedics were able to restart his heart, but in the 7 minutes when the actor said it stopped, he went on a strange cosmic journey during which he had the power to choose between life and death. He continued, I felt there was a whole set of possibilities, various lives and reincarnations that were being offered to me, but I didn't want them. I made it very clear I wanted to return to my body, to my time, to my wife, and to go on living. I needed to be proactive. I said I was coming back. I said it is a demand, not a request. After being rushed into surgery at King's College Hospital for an operation to put a stent into his fully clogged main artery, Shiv went into an induced coma for a month because of cerebral hypoxia, oxygen starvation of the brain, which then has left him with epilepsy. 5 years on, he has been unable to return to the stage, as he also has problems with his speech and mobility. On his long road to recovery, Shavinda found art an extremely therapeutic way to document what he saw during his brief encounter with death. The artist said, I remember everything that happened when my heart stopped, and I've tried to translate it into art. My works act as a map to rediscovery and to understanding my experience. Describing himself as scientifically minded and a natural cynic, nevertheless, Shavinda says his experience has cemented his belief in the afterlife. I'm less fearful of death because of it, but at the same time, I'm also more fearful because I've realized how precious everything I have in life is. So there you go. How Bashim, how Shai pretty much shook him up, took him to the edge of death, the edge of the afterlife, shook him up, and now he's trying to be a bit more graceful. So I'm grateful just to be here. My drive for life has been boosted. I've always thought that kindness is essential for humans to evolve and become better. But after this experience, I now feel this very deep inside me, like a fundamental truth. Producing the work featured in my exhibition has been part of my recovery, but it also goes beyond that. I've tried to capture what a person experiences when they cross the threshold of non-living and to hopefully convey that to others. So all he has to do really, if he really wanted to do that, should have just gone to the scriptures. But it's interesting what he said. He understood that there were options of reincarnation. Now in the Bible, there's many examples of it. Before we move on, got here Job chapter 14, verse 14 says, if a man die, shall he live again? And before you came to this truth, the answer would have been no. But now you're in this truth, you have to understand that exactly how I've just explained, your spirit will be regenerated. Because all the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come. So what's that change? That change is coming when Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, delivers the elect on the day of the Lord. And we definitely know that Job is going to be part of the elect. If if Job is down here on the earth today, then come the day of the Lord, he will be delivered. If he's in the spirit world, then his spirit will be put into his body, and his body will arise from the ground. And with that, he will appear, and then be delivered from there. Spirit of a prophet is subject unto a prophet. So, you can't just wake up and decide to be a prophet. You have to have been given that particular spirit of a prophet from the moment you were born. So it says, if a man dies, shall he live again all the days of my appointed time? So Job understood that he will be back on earth for certain appointed times. He'll be coming back every third or fourth generation through his father's bloodline. He also understood that he was a prophet with the spirit of a prophet, and that is subject unto the prophet. So when he comes back at some particular point, he'll be appointed to preach this word, this truth once more. And ultimately, what is he doing? It says he's waiting for the change to come. The change comes when the so-called UFOs, the chariots, come and deliver the elect, beam them up into those chariots. And ultimately, those physical bodies will be changed. But it says here, it starts off by saying, if a man dies, shall he live again? That's the question. And the answer is yes, you will live again. So you live in this Edomite community, and they do everything by science. They have no spirituality. That's why they teach that, you only live once. They want you, they say to you, live your life because it could be over any minute, and you only live once, so do all the things you want to do because you'll never be able to do it again. Well, that's false. You will be back again, and you will be judged on the way you live your life. So with that, you should take heed and maybe try to live in a righteous manner. You may get away with wicked behavior throughout your whole life, and before anybody else gets to kill you or gets to punish you, you may be able to take yourself out. But Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, still has control over you. And come your next lifetime, you could be born with all sorts of disabilities and all sorts of struggles. The terror, king of terror, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, and can put you in a body and give you severe mental handicap throughout your whole life. He could give you severe physical disability. He could have you plagued with violence throughout your whole life and disease. Any form of judgment you can receive, it can come to you. And you have to consider that when you're carrying out your particular works. This is Job 19. There are many examples, like I say, in the scriptures. 19 and 26, and thou after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see the Most High. Because he understands that once his body dies, his spirit goes to the spirit world, he'll be back, third or fourth generation. And with the cycles, with the generations that keep coming and keep coming, eventually he'll be here in those last days that we're in now. And when you go to Matthew chapter 24, even the disciples are asking Yahweh Shai, give us the signs of your second coming and the end times. So why would they ask that if they were with him at that moment in the first coming? Why are they even bothered about the second coming? They're not going to live that long, but they knew that they will be here in those days. So they said, tell us the signs, so we can make notes, pretty much, these scriptures, and show the disciple, so the disciples could understand when Yahweh Shai was about to return. So the disciples have been on the earth many times since then, through regeneration, reincarnation of the Spirit. But now those disciples are back again, and they recognize that this moment is the moment in which he's about to return. They're looking at certain events that they wrote down in a previous lifetime while they were face to face with Yahweh Shai, and those notes have survived the course of the last 2,000 years. It's known as the scriptures, the Bible. And there are many, many examples on regeneration, reincarnation of the Spirit in the scriptures. I can't go to them all, but one more I will go to is the book of John. So this example is based around John the Baptist. This is the book of John, chapter 1. And John, to cut it short, pretty much straight to the understanding, John the Baptist was Elijah. This is the testimony of John. This is chapter 1, verse 19. It says, "And this is the record of John, when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, 'Who art thou?' And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, 'I am not the anointed.'" Because he's out there and he's going hard with the preaching of this gospel, pretty much. And so that's why they're looking at him and they're thinking, who's this guy? Is he the one that we've been told, the anointed that will come, that will be born? So that's why they had to go and ask him. It says, "And they asked him, 'What then? Art thou Elias?'" This is Elijah. Are you Elijah? And he saith, "I am not." "Art thou a prophet?" And he answered, "No." Because he's doing the job of a prophet, but he's answering that he's not a prophet and he's not Elijah. And when you go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, we have no remembrance of former things. It says, "Then they said unto him, 'Who art thou? That we may give an answer to them that sent us. What sayest thou of thyself?' He said, 'I am the voice of the one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as said the prophet Isaiah.'" And this is Isaiah. So he's basically saying, what Isaiah said is, I'm that guy making straight the way of the Lord. But he had no remembrance. That's why he couldn't tell you that he was Elijah. But how do we know he was Elijah? Because it's been proven by Yahweh Shai. So we'll start at verse 9. This is Matthew 17, verse 9. "And they came down from the mountain. Yahweh Shai charged them, saying, 'Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead.'" Because, the disciples had just seen transfiguration of Yahweh Shai and Moses. It says, "And after 6 days, Yahweh Shai taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up to a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias, talking with him." So they've just had this, this vision, if you like. And then when you jump down to verse 9, it says, "And they came down from the mountain, and Yahweh Shai charged them, saying, 'Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead.' And the disciples asked him, saying, 'When then say the scribes that Elijah must come first?' And Yahweh Shai answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall come first, and restore all things. But I say unto you, that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed." And that was John the Baptist. They ended up by cutting off his head. "Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them." Then the disciples understood that he spoke unto them of John the Baptist. So they were looking out for Elijah to come again, make straight the way of the Lord, the one crying in the wilderness. They were waiting for that. And so they asked, they said, "But isn't Elijah supposed to come first?" And, Yahweh Shai told them he did come. He came as John the Baptist, but they never knew that. And that's why they dealt with him the way they dealt with him. Ultimately, he had his head chopped off. There are many examples of regeneration in the Bible. That was just a few. But without that understanding, you can't understand the scriptures and where it's all heading. Says, this is Daniel chapter 12. "And at that time shall Michael stand up." It's talking about the last days, and that when the missiles come and the chariots and that great war in heaven, World War III, ICBMs, is the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble. This is Jacob's trouble. The time between the implementation of the MOTB, Revelation 13, and the time between that and pretty much World War III, the time of Jacob's trouble, also trouble for other nations, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book, and the book of life. It says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of earth shall awake. So these are those that have died momentarily when the day of the Lord comes. And some people would have died a week before, 2 weeks, a month before that. They wouldn't have had the chance to be regenerated. The spirit will be in the spirit world, but yet their spirit will be thrown back into their body come the day of judgment, and they shall awake. It says here, some to everlasting life, because some will be the members of the elect, so they won't die from there on. They will be delivered into the chariot, changed, that same change that Job is waiting for, and then they will live forever. It says this, and some to shame and everlasting contempt, because some of you Israelites out here, most of you that don't take on these scriptures, don't take on the understanding we give you, and on the return of Yahushua, you're going to be subject to shame and contempt. It says everlasting, but it won't be everlasting, but it will be for a short period of time. You're going to know. It says, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So we're in that time. These scriptures, the understanding of it has been sealed. And now we're in the last of the last days. And, these seals have been broken. And so many are running to and fro. We're getting this understanding. If you're new to this, you understand that regeneration of the spirit, reincarnation, is you coming back, third or fourth generation through your father's bloodline. It does occur. And sometimes, you come back, you see people receive instant judgment as soon as they step into this world with their life. And, you can have sympathy on them, but ultimately this is righteous judgment of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai. So I hope that's edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakat Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.